Am I the a-hole for kicking my fiancé out after, joking, he got me pregnant on purpose? I, 23 female, have been with my fiancé, 26 male, for 3 years. We met whilst I was on holiday and a few weeks after, he followed me on Instagram and the rest is history. We got engaged last year and a month later found out I was pregnant. We have a beautiful 6-month-old. We hosted Thanksgiving this year and my fiancé was drinking quite heavily. After dinner, me and my mom were talking about the wedding, which my parents are paying for. I overheard my fiancé tell my brother, who was just as drunk as him, that he needed to tie me down and get me pregnant before I realized what a dickhead he was. They laughed it off, but it rubbed me the wrong way. Some background. Our baby was not planned. I wasn't ready for a child and we were using condoms, but after a few instances where the condom broke I decided it would be safer if I got on birth control. The first month on birth control, I got pregnant. We were told that could happen and he said he would pull out to be safe, but I still got pregnant. I was scared, but I personally didn't want to get an abortion and decided to keep the baby. I work for my dad's company and my fiancé works at a country club. Money wasn't necessarily why I didn't want a baby, I just wanted to do more before I started a family. I spoke to my fiancé about what he said. At first he said he didn't remember saying it, which was believable because of how drunk he was, but then he said it was just a joke and it was meant as a compliment because I'm so amazing. So I said, okay, good, because we're getting a prenup. I was just joking, but I also wanted to see how he reacted, and he was pissed. He asked why the fuck would he sign a prenup that we have a baby together, a house together. He told me would not sign one, how we wouldn't need one because we're never separating, and that me mentioning a prenup is insulting and emasculating. I never felt threatened or anything like that, but he did make me uncomfortable and he woke our baby up, so I told him to leave, which he did. The day after I kicked him out, he sent me a long apologetic message about how it was out of character for him to get loud, which it was. He's never acted like that before. I replied saying I appreciate the apology, but I still just need a day or two to think everything through. The next day he sent a bouquet to the apartment. On Sunday, he sent me a booking confirmation of a massage he booked for me at the club and offered to come over to watch our son and cook dinner. Tonight, he sent me a message saying that I'm being an a-hole and that I'm taking a meaningless joke to heart and that he's wasting money he could be saving for the wedding on the hotel. But now that I've gone over things in my head, I'm starting to think is Seuss, but breaking up my family over this doesn't seem right. Edit for context. A lot of people were asking for context. When I said I wanted a prenup, I wasn't being serious. Maybe I was being an a-hole trying to get a reaction, but based on the 3 years we've been together, I would have never imagined he'd react the way he did. Why did the joke bother me so much? About a year ago, he lost his job. He was never really clear why. For the next 3/4 of a month he didn't really do much. He said he was trying to figure out what he wanted to do next, and that was the first time he brought up having kids, indicating that he was ready. We had a candid conversation on my part about how I want kids, just not anytime soon. I enjoy my job, I had trips planned and I wanted to be married first. He agreed with me that we should wait 3/4 of a year. My dad's company got a contract at the club, which is how he got his job there, but during the time he was out of work, my girls would joke that he's a stay-at-home boyfriend, that I'm the provider and he'd be a stay-at-home dad because I was paying the bills, rent by myself. At the time, it didn't bother me, but I guess it was them that first made me question. I don't know how long the condoms were breaking. A lot of people are saying they've never had them break, and I can't say I remember it ever happening before. I noticed the first time that it looked like it had split, and then I checked it the next time and it was also broken, which is when I decided to get an IUD. He didn't want me to, but I stood my ground and we compromised and I would get on the pill. I know we should have continued using condoms, but he said he'd run out and that I'm on the pill and don't need them. In hindsight, yes, I should have insisted we still used them. But I chose not to have that battle. I thought we'd be okay. He knew my opinion on abortion and that if I got pregnant, I would raise the baby unless it was for a medical reason. Money-wise, my family's successful. I work for my dad's company. I have 2 trust funds, one of which I got at 18. Before I fell pregnant, I was making plans to start my own house flipping business, but I decided to put that on hold. I still work from home on flexible hours, but he said once we're married he wants me to stop working so I can focus on our kids and that he'll support us. I've never really liked that idea, mainly because although I've never had to worry about money, my parents always taught us the importance of financial stability, and my mom's always said to never be financially dependent on anyone. Plus, on my fiancé's current salary, I'm not sure would cover all of our expenses. The only reason why I haven't told my dad is because they have a good relationship and I don't want to blow everything up over an overreaction on my part. Update 3 days later. Yesterday, we had a conversation about where I was at. He said he couldn't go back to the hotel because they kicked him out for smoking in the room. He stopped smoking while I was pregnant, but he said I was stressing him out, so he had to stay at the apartment. While I was on the phone with one of my girls in the bedroom, he came in, took the phone off me and told me to come and eat. While we were eating, he said that he understood what I said and that things needed to change for us to move forward. He then proceeded to list all the things I needed to do to make things better. His tone the whole conversation was just making me uneasy. I texted my dad saying that he was making me uncomfortable when he wasn't looking. I went to check on the baby, and when I came back, I saw him take my keys out of my purse, but didn't say anything. He took my silence as agreement to everything he said and went to bed like everything was normal. I stayed in the living room and my dad, bless him, drove 6 hours to come and get us. My dad got to the apartment around 5 this morning while my fiancé was still sleeping and we left. My son and I are at my parents' house now. My fiancé's been blowing up my phone since this morning. I sent a text to him as we were driving off saying he wasn't respecting the fact that I needed space and time to just figure everything out, so he could stay in the apartment and I'll stay with my parents. We haven't officially broken up or called the wedding off. My parents who've paid for it have said that they don't care if I want to call it off, but I feel bad. I feel like every option I have is bad. The thought of being a single mom is scary. If my fiancé's behavior gets worse, that would be shit. If we cancel the wedding and cost my parents thousands of dollars, I'll feel guilty. If we break up altogether, we just got a house together, we're both on the mortgage. I've been with him since I was 19. Being without him for good is also scary. Update 2 to 3 weeks later. I didn't go about leaving the right way. Since I didn't tell him anything, the next morning he was understandably confused when we weren't at home. Initially, I went no contact. Since he couldn't reach me, he called the police saying that he thought I was having some type of breakdown and have postpartum depression, and that he was afraid for me and our son's safety. The police alerted my parents that I'd been reported missing and asked if they'd seen or heard from me. We explained that I left because I felt uncomfortable in the apartment with him. I started speaking to him again. I told him why I left but apologized for leaving the way I did, and he also apologized for everything that's gone down. He said he'd bought stuff for me and the baby for Christmas already and wanted to give it to us, so he asked if he could come to my parents' house at Christmas. It was our son's first Christmas, and despite what's going on between us, he's still his dad and I didn't want to make him miss out. I explained all this to my parents who agreed to let him come. We had a good day. He brought the stuff like he said and he was respectful and didn't drink. It felt like things used to be. He came back the next day because he left his wallet, but we talked for a while. He promised to stop drinking because that was what caused everything, and he was alright with us postponing the wedding, saying he just missed his family. He asked if we'd come back with him, but I said I wanted to stay here. He said he understood. We didn't speak for a few days and he sent a care package with things he knew I liked. He wrote in the letter that since all my stuff was still at the apartment, he wanted me to have things that reminded me of home. I called him to say thank you and we FaceTimed so he could see the baby. I went out on New Year's Eve with some friends from high school and the next day he texted me, asking if I got home all right and if I was hungover. I said I was fine, but then I realized I didn't tell him I was going out, so I asked how he knew and he said he saw me on an Insta story and knew it was my first time drinking since giving birth. He said he didn't go out and could have watched our son, but I didn't plan to go out. Originally, I was gonna stay home, but my mom encouraged me to go, and by the time I decided I was going, it was too short notice. My dad and brother wanted to drive back to the apartment to get my stuff, so I asked him when would be a good time for them to go. He said that I didn't need to move out and that even though he thinks I'm blowing everything out of proportion, he would wait for me to get over it so we could be a family again because he needs us. He said that he'd stay in a hotel and I should move back in. The wedding's been cancelled. My parents lost most of the deposits, which I'm gonna pay them back, and I told everyone I could that it's been cancelled. I'm not sure if he's done the same. My parents said I can stay as long as I need, but I feel like a burden. They were supposed to go away in a week, but they cancelled it, and they lost all that money on the wedding. So I need to figure myself out soon. A part of me thinks I'm being stupid throwing away my family over what started as a drunken joke, but it's become more than that and I'm just lost at the moment. But yeah, that's where I'm at. But I wanna thank y'all. I've had a lot of messages and people checking on me. I know some are probably disappointed that I haven't cut him off completely, but it's not that simple, especially with a baby. And these last few weeks he's gone back to how he used to be. I'm realizing that I've probably caused a lot of this by overthinking the joke. Update 2.5 months later. I know I haven't posted in a few months, but I got back together with him. At the time, he and his family were making me feel guilty for breaking up my family. So I did it for the sake of my son. I figured if we were happy then I could forget everything that happened and give my son the childhood that I had. We moved into the new house, and we were so good for the first few weeks. My parents go on a cruise for a month every February for my mom's birthday. They weren't gonna go this year, but I felt like we were in such a good place that I said I'd be okay and told them to go. I started having brunch with my girls again, but one week, it was dinner to fit everyone's schedule. He found out one of my friends who he doesn't like was there and locked me out of the house, so I slept in my car. When he let me back in, he said it was because it was late, so he thought I was staying at a friend's, but my friend who was there said that he watched her Instagram story. I asked him again, and that's when he said he doesn't like me hanging out with someone who doesn't respect him. He did apologize, and I know it was fucked, but I just let it go. I decided when our son turned 10 months that I was ready to go back to work part-time. We have an on-site daycare and I'd only be in the office 2 days a week and work from home 1 day. I told him about my plan and he didn't like it, but I stood my ground. He made it so difficult to be in the office. He'd call me, then he started showing up with the baby. So I started working from home 2 days a week instead, but then he would go out or to the gym and leave me while I'm working with our now crawling baby, so that became basically impossible. I said that I needed to work to pay my half of the mortgage, but he said I didn't need to and was choosing to. The compromise was that his mom would come over and watch our son on the days I was working. Him and his mom would say that I'm not taking good care of the house or our son because I'm working and going out. It didn't help that our baby was going through a clingy phase and was hysterically crying whenever I put him down. I met his grandma for the first time and she tripped on a toy car that I forgot to pick up. She was fine, she didn't fall or hurt herself, but it did scare us. That night he got physical for the first time. He said he didn't like how I just laughed it off when his grandma could have really hurt herself, which I understood because his grandmother's 89. We would be good and then I'd do something to ruin the mood. I'd try not to, but at times, it was like me existing would piss him off. My parents have been wanting to FaceTime while they've been away, but I would always ignore their calls and just send videos of the baby instead. My mom called me today while I was working and I answered, forgetting my cheek was still a bit swollen. I ended up just telling her everything and they're flying back tomorrow. My boyfriend's mom heard me on the phone and cussed me out. She basically said that my relationship should be private and that it's no one's business what me and my boyfriend do. Update 1 week later. His mom made me feel like I had just ruined my life by telling my mom what's been going on. She was saying how much he wanted to be a family and a father unlike his own. She said how much she struggled being a single mom and how lucky I am to have someone who wants to take care of me and that it's gonna be hard to find someone who's willing to look after someone else's kid. My parents landed the next evening and my mom insisted I go to the hospital. It was there that I discovered I had actually fractured my rib. It was just a hairline fracture, but my doctor was required to report my injuries. I was discharged and me and my son are back at my parents' house. We haven't spoken since I've left. I know that he's not good for me and someone said how my son's going to grow up thinking it's okay to hit your partner and that's fucked up. I was in a bubble and it popped as soon as I spoke to my mom. I never thought I'd be in an abusive relationship, but it's like I woke up and was suddenly in one. Reading back my posts, yeah, I'm like this is fucked, but when it's happening in real time it was easier for me to ignore all the messed up shit. I'm meeting with my dad's lawyer on Tuesday to talk about the next steps.